Aloha, everyone. So earlier today, I had an interview with a reporter from Bloomberg News as they're preparing to write an article on the trends in Hawaii's ultra luxury real estate market, and they wanted to get some of my insights. Now, I'm not sure when this article will come out, but since I shared so much information with them, I figured it's only fair that I share the same insights with all of you. So in this video, we're going to look back at the 10 largest ultra luxury residential real estate sales in the history of the Hawaiian Islands. Now, to be clear, we're only going to be looking at residential properties, so it'll be condos and single family homes. We're not going to be looking at any large land sales or large developer deals in this data. Now, what I found really surprising is that I live within a 15-minute drive of 4 of the largest sales in the state of Hawaii. So several of the most expensive properties are literally right in my backyard. Now, in addition to that, we'll also look at how the number of luxury and ultra luxury sales has changed over the past 20 years to see if it tells us what to expect in the future. So let's jump right into it by looking at those top 10 biggest residential sales in Hawaii's real estate history. This is a bar chart showing how the 10 largest sales stack up against each other. The chart is color-coded to show which island each of the sales occurred on. The tan color is Maui, blue is the Big Island, green is Kauai, and orange is Oahu. And based on that, you can see that Maui had the most properties on this list with 4. Big Island had 3, Kauai had 2, and Oahu, surprisingly, only had 1. Now, the biggest sale was the property that Jeff Bezos purchased in 2021 at Perouse Bay. The property was sold off-market for a whopping $78 million. And this property is all about privacy, which makes it difficult to get any current footage of the home. It's located at the southern tip of Maui, past Wailea and Makena, basically where the road ends. The second largest sale was on Oahu, and it sold just last year in 2025. 4823 Kahala Avenue is located on Honolulu's most prestigious beachfront street near Diamond Head. This estate is called the House of Honor, and it sold for $65.75 million and is comprised of an acre and a half of prime land with 213 feet of beach frontage, with 3 separate homes on the property. And it sold for more than 3 times the next highest sale on Oahu that year. Now, looking at this chart, you can't help but notice that the top 2 sales really stand out compared to the rest. The remaining properties on this list, 3 through 10, are all between $36 million and $46 million. Okay, so that was the top 10 largest residential real estate sales in Hawaii's history. But what I found really interesting when I was talking to the Bloomberg reporter was that they don't consider a property to be ultra luxury unless it sells for over $30 million. Well, in the entire state of Hawaii's history, we've only had 18 residential sales over that $30 million mark, which makes it really difficult to see any trends. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to consider the property to be an ultra luxury property if it sold for over $15 million. So here's a graph that I put together that charts the number of ultra luxury sales per year, and it goes all the way back to the year 2005. The purple line that's displayed now includes the sales on all the Hawaiian Islands. Now, you will notice that up until the year 2017, we only had between 1 and 7 sales per year of this magnitude. We had a little bit of a spike in 2018 with 15 sales, and then a big boom in 2021 after the pandemic, when we had 34 ultra luxury sales, or sales over $15 million that year. Now, since then, we've come down a little bit, reaching the bottom in 2023 with 11 sales, which is still more than typical, and then bouncing back up to 20 sales in 2024. Note that I did include a dotted line here to show the year-to-date of 2026. It's not a full year of data yet, so it's not really fair to include it on this chart, but I wanted to show you where we are right now so far this year. And so far in 2026, we have had 15 sales over $15 million in the state of Hawaii. Okay, so how does the island of Maui stack up against this? Again, you see basically the same trends only a handful of ultra luxury sales, usually either 0 or 2 per year, all the way up until the pandemic boom of 2021, where Maui had 11 sales over $15 million. We've come down since then, had a little bit of a bump in 2024, and so far in 2026, we have not had any sales over $15 million. Now we'll run through the rest of the islands here. I'll show you what Oahu looks like. And surprisingly, Oahu does not have a lot of ultra luxury sales. You see that usually there's only 1 or 0 per year. In some cases, there was 2 or 3. But even during the pandemic boom of 2021, there was still only 1 ultra luxury sale. 2022 did have 5 sales, and so far in 2026, we have had 0 sales of $15 or more on Oahu. Kauai is kind of the same story. There's not a whole lot of ultra luxury sales throughout the years on Kauai. Again, a boom in 2021 where we had 8 sales over $15 million. And so far this year in 2026, we've had 2 sales over $15 million on the island of Kauai. Now, the island that is outperforming all the others is the Big Island. So take a look at this one. Going back to 2005, it's usually between 0 and 2 or 3 sales per year, all the way up until the pandemic boom in 2021, where there was 14 sales. A little bit of dip in 2023 down to 5 sales, but so far this year, there's already been 13 sales over $15 million in the year 2026, and we haven't even come to the end of the year yet. Okay, so that was a quick overview of Hawaii's ultra luxury real estate market, showing the number of properties that sold for more than $15 million. And even though Hawaii is known for having very expensive properties, you saw that only a handful of ultra luxury sales happen each year. But what about the lower level luxury properties in Hawaii? What kind of trends are we seeing for the regular luxury market? Well, I pulled similar data for sales over just $3 million. Let me show you what that chart looks like. Okay, so just like the last graph we looked at, we'll start by looking at all of the islands combined with this purple line. As you can see, the trends are very similar for the regular luxury properties compared to what they were for the ultra luxury properties. Between the years 2005 and 2015, we typically had between 100 and 200 sales over $3 million. Then there was a spike in 2017, a little bit of a dip in 2019, but still above trend at 245 sales, and then the big burst in 2021 after the pandemic, when we had 758 sales over $3 million, which is about 4 times what was typical from 2005 to 2015. Okay, so how does this compare to the island of Maui? So the tan line shows Maui here, and you can see that all the way up until 2020, we always had less than 100 sales over $3 million. 2020 was one of the higher years with 85. Then we had the pandemic boom again, and in 2021, we had 253 sales over $3 million. We've come down since then, but we're still above the trend. In 2025, we had 111 sales. So far in 2026, we've had 49 sales. So we're trending back towards the average of about 100 sales per year over $3 million. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all the islands individually like I did with the last chart, but I will show you what all the lines look like together. So here's what it looks like if we add Oahu. Now, Oahu has by far the most overall properties on any island within the Hawaiian chain. So it's not surprising that they do have more luxury sales, but not that much. So a lot of the properties are more affordable on Oahu. There's only a handful of luxury sales each year. And you can see that so far in 2026, there's been 110 sales over $3 million, which is not that much more than Maui, which has a much smaller population. Now, in contrast, Kauai is the least populated island and has the least amount of properties. So as you would expect, they typically don't have a ton of luxury properties sell. Up until 2015, it was around 10 sales per year. And then we had the boom in 2021. And so far in 2026, even though it's a much smaller island, we're right around the same pace as we are on Maui. Big Island hasn't quite overachieved like they did with the ultra luxury sales. They're more in alignment with what we would expect for all the other islands as well. So that was the raw data, but due to inflation, it's really not fair to compare a $3 million sale in 2005 to a $3 million sale in 2026. So let's see what the graph would look like if we adjusted for inflation. Okay, so here is an inflation-adjusted luxury sales chart. Again, we're going to start by looking at the overall sales for the state, so all the islands combined. That's the purple line, and that is the same line that we were looking at on the previous chart. The line below it that's more of a maroonish color, well, that's the inflation-adjusted count. Now, to be clear, I did use artificial intelligence to calculate all this inflation adjustments, and just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, $3 million in the year 2005 is now about the same as $5.14 million this year in 2026. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how much our purchasing power has degraded over the years. Now, as you'd expect, even the inflation-adjusted line does follow the same trends, but it isn't as extreme as the purple line. One thing that I do find interesting is that even after we adjust for inflation, the last 3.5 years are still above what our normal sales count is for luxury properties. And if we look at the year-to-date number in 2026, we are trending towards about the same number as we did last year statewide. Now, let's look at Maui. So again, the tan line is the same line that we looked at on the previous chart. That's the number of sales over $3 million on the island of Maui. Again, inflation adjustment does flatten out the extremes a little bit, but what I find interesting again is that on Maui, after we adjust for inflation, the last few years, we're still above what is a typical number of sales for luxury properties. However, so far in 2026, after we adjust for inflation, there's only been 19 sales, so we are below trend so far this year. So here's the big picture when you put all of this information together, and this is exactly what I shared with Bloomberg's reporter. Both the luxury and ultra luxury sales in the state of Hawaii are down significantly from where they were during the 2021 pandemic boom, which was by far the peak. But really, we're just now returning to a more normal number after a few abnormally busy years. That said, Maui specifically has lost ground not just in raw numbers, but also relative to the other islands. Once you adjust for inflation, Maui's luxury sale pace may actually be below where it was 20 years ago. But looking at just the number of sales doesn't really tell the full story. Most properties have seen their property values decrease significantly since 2021's peak, and I'm personally seeing more luxury properties going to auction than I typically expect in a normal market. So right now there are fewer buyers, there's more inventory, and there's less competition. So if you've been waiting for the right time to buy a legacy property in Hawaii for your family, that combination doesn't come around very often. And if you want to talk through what's out there currently, I'd love to hear from you. The best way to reach me is through my contact form on my website. I'll drop a link to that contact form in the description, and there's a QR code on screen right now that will take you there as well. And of course, if you found this video helpful, please do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe for more helpful real estate insights. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who would also find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Aloha.